All right. It says I am live. Hello, hello, everybody. My name is Kristen Brown, and I am an author, a mentor and coach, and a speaker, an energy healer, an intuitive. I'm all kinds of things all wrapped up into one. But really, what I do is I help people shift their energy, their inner world, so that they can attract and create a healthier, more improved, dynamic, fantastic, amazing, mind blowing outer world. Because you can absolutely have everything you want in this life. And I've done it myself, and I know how to help people get there. So today I'm going live because one of my subscribers recently sent me a message, and she asked, "Hey, could you share your favorite books?" And oh boy, do I have a list of favorite books. In fact, if you saw the thumbnail for this live stream right now, that is actually my bookshelf. And shockingly enough, I've gotten rid of a lot of books. I've either loaned them out to people or have passed them on because I had so many. And when I recently got this new bookshelf, oh, little Iodine, hey, girlfriend. When I recently got this, I remodeled my office, as many of you can see. That's interesting, little Iodine. You're on there, but you're not showing up in my numbers, which is fascinating. You're magic, sister. Uh, but I went through my books again. I laid them all out here on my office floor, and I was like, I had to feel through them, give away, because I needed to purge a little bit. I'm a purging person, and when things get like way too built up for me, I need to start purging things. But guess what I got right next to me off camera? You guys can't even see it, and it is my list of books. It is them in their tattered and beautiful and worn and well-loved form. And I'm really excited to share them with you today because these are books that no matter what, I will never, ever get rid of. These things are going to be here even when I transition into the next world. So, what I find fascinating about these books is that each book was presented to me along my journey, which means that either somebody recommended it to me or basically it fell off a bookshelf, and bonked me in the head, not literally, for me to read. And the one thing I want to say about this is that, yes, we want book referrals. We want to know like what awesome things are out there and what am I missing? What do I not know about yet? My gosh, and there's so many books in the world. It's hard to keep track of them all, quite honestly. And if you're someone who reads a lot like me, then every book you see, you're like, oh, I want to read that one. I want to read this one. And we just jump around from book to book. And there was a point recently, y'all, and I'm not even exaggerating, where I probably had 7 books on my nightstand, each with a bookmark in it because I was trying to read them all at once. And I was like, Kristen, what are you doing? Slow down, because sometimes we want to rush through life. And I'm guilty of that sometimes. But rushing through these books is not what got me to where I am today. What I did with these books is that I marinated in them. We know by now that there's a heart brain connection. Okay. And when we are combining those two things, that is when we start to implement the spiritual knowledge, the capital T truth, the universal wisdom, whatever it is. And we do that by literally marinating in what we are learning. There is a study out that says that people will like the majority of people don't finish a book. Now, I am guilty of that. There's some books that I don't finish because they're just not really doing it for me. Or at that time, I will get what I needed to get out of that book, which I will explain with a couple of these. And then I will put it aside because I am like marinating in the learning of that book at that given time. And this is something that I want to stress to you all. It's like anything else that we're learning. If you are reading some type of spiritual or self-help literature, and this is the key operative word here, it is making you feel expansive. It is making you go, wow, or oh, what a great concept, or I never looked at it that way, or that's me. If any of these things are coming up from you, that is your time to put on your brakes, slow down, highlight like crazy. I have highlighters all over my house. Highlight like crazy and reread the passages of that book. I also invite you to journal about what you're reading. Like if you get a concept, you're like, wow, that's great. Instead of rushing through the book, shut the book and sit down and start journaling. How is this applying to me? What does this feel like when I read this? Because what you're doing is you're actually forming a neural pathway in your brain for that to become new knowledge for you. And the most exciting part is that when something comes up in your life, that new knowledge is going to come forward and you're going to remember that new knowledge and you're going to start acting from a different place than you have been acting in the past because we are on these repeating patterns. That's what we are. Our brain is it's a program. So the program is continuing to run all the time, yet it is a very programmable program, which means we can delete files and we can upload files and we can change things as we go, which is freaking brilliant. Thank you, universe. And that's how we grow. So when something comes into your mind and you're like, "Hey, that's awesome." Write it down, marinate on it. I'm very much known for taking a dry erase marker and writing on my mirror. That's something I did recently in life. I didn't do that back in the day. But back when I had children, I had this big, huge, awesome chair. I wish I still had it. And my body just fit in there perfectly, like my neck on one end and my knees over the other end. Like a tall person probably wouldn't fit in this chair very well. And I had a light. And after those kids went to bed, I sat down with my books and I read. And it was in quiet and I let the stuff marinate inside of me. I will say one more thing. Prior to, sometimes back in the day, I would say probably in my 20s, if I was reading a book, a lot of times I read the book through the filter of who can this help? Who can I point at out here that this book can help? I was way guilty of that. I'm like, oh, they're explaining so and so right now, or oh, this is Bob, oh, this is Jane, or this is, and instead of doing that, I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that because that wasn't doing me any good. That again is my energy is going out here in the world where I have no control, where I have no power, where I cannot change shift anything out here. And I started to take each sentence and bring it into myself. And the cool thing is as you start to heal and grow, I don't know where you're at on your path, but as you start to heal and grow, you're going to go, I already know that. Or I already know this, which was the case with one of my books that I'm about to share with you. So without further ado, I won't make you guys wait anymore. I'm going to start getting into my guests. First, some water. Okay, I'm going to show you these books in order. Okay, these were in order. So some of these puppies are freaking old, like over 40 years, 30, maybe over 30 years. So there's a little lead up to this book right here. I'm not going to show you what it is yet. You guys might know this story that I was raised in a particular religion that some of you might be, so I'm not going to mention what that is, but that religion to me was very fear-based. And the religion, it wasn't like I wasn't beaten or anything weird like that. And it wasn't culty, but it was just a religion that didn't make me feel good. And I had already had this connection with God along my journey and just being a little girl and knowing that there was a God. And I'm glad that my parents, put that inside of me because I knew there was this energy out there. And I formed this connection with this spiritual realm, this quantum field. And in that, it felt always very loving and always very safe and always very wonderful. Well, somewhere along the line, as I'm going through certain things that you need to go through in this religion, I was probably about 14 years old. And I was like, this just doesn't feel right to me. It just doesn't feel right. Like in my inner knowing, in my heart, it wasn't that it was bad or I hated it. It just didn't feel true to me. It didn't feel good to me. And I decided to leave that religion. Now, I will disclaim that we weren't super religious family. That wasn't the case. And it wasn't like, we're in church 3 times a week. In fact, my parents never went to church. So, but I think they were under the dictates of you have to go through these certain things based on their upbringings and what they were taught to do. And so they were just pushing that onto us. But anyway, fast forward, I decided when I left that religion that I was going to go to the Church of Kristen. That's what I decided. I didn't call it that later when I had to name it something later. I was like, what did I do? I'm like, I basically found my own church, so to speak, my own, what felt good to me, how I felt like I could thrive in the world. What gave me hope? What gave me faith? What made me excited? What made me feel like I was supported? So, with that being said, I don't know the exact age of myself during this first book. I believe it had to have been somewhere, you guys, about 20. I don't even know if I was with my first husband yet. I met him at 21. I don't, but I think I was work. So I was probably around 21, 22 when I got this book. And I'm 55 now. So this was 33 years ago, if that's the case, if it was 22. And I walked into a metaphysical bookstore. Didn't even know what the term metaphysics meant. Never heard of it before. but I love the energy and essence in this place. And I was like, what is this place? Okay. And it just smelled good. And it had lovely books along the wall. And it had special figurines and all kinds of lovely things. And I was like, this just feels really good. And then I was reading the titles of books and I was like, oh, wow, this is like something inside of me was getting really excited. So along this journey, I was often called too sensitive. You're just too sensitive. People told me that all the time. Now I think I have a talk on here about sensitivity because there's several types of sensitivity. And it is important that we know the differences in those type of sensitivities because the sensitivity that I'm going to show you right now has to do with I was picking up energy and I was reading energy and I was knowing things before they were happening. And I basically was, what's the word when you know things in advance? I wasn't prophesizing, but basically I had this like psychic energy going on inside of me and I just knew shit. I knew it. Like I knew it, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. And then it ended up happening. And I'm like, I knew it. And a lot of times people didn't believe me, but also I picked up on things that other people were doing or saying because I could feel the energy of them. And then when I would say that to somebody else, they would be like, you're just too sensitive. Okay. You're just too sensitive. Get over it. You're making stuff up. Oh, drama, yada, yada. So when I walked into this bookstore, I opened the door and I must not open the door. I walked over to the bookshelf and there was one book. And I don't think I had purchased ever a book for myself, to be honest with you. I was reading a lot of novels and things like that, but my girlfriend and her mother were avid readers. They just passed them my way. I believe this is probably the first book I ever bought in my life. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Can you read it? Are you really, I know there's a glare, really too sensitive by Marcy Calhoun. And that's sweet little Marcy on the back. Okay. I'm trying not to block my lights. Marcy Calhoun. Oh my gosh, this book. Are you really too sensitive? So, yeah. Okay. So it says on the back here, Are You Really Too Sensitive provides many practical techniques for understanding, living with, and developing our intuitive sensitivity. How to develop and understand your sensitivity as the strength underlined that it is. So this book, and here's what's interesting back then, I didn't have highlighters. So when I liked something that I was reading, I put it in little brackets. Okay. Right here, little bracket right here. Okay. That's what I did when I was reading stuff that I liked. And this book really opened up my mind. Your fear self will always speak to you in extremes. Okay. This is the stuff that I was learning from here. Give yourself the right to be worth your time. Let me see what else. I know for sure in this book, here we go. What's telepathy, psychometry, empathy, physical empathy, mental empathy, emotional empathy. All right. Mediumship, channeling, visions. Like it was all in this book. And I believe this was she was calling us ultra sensitive. Okay. So this book is the one that really helped me understand my intuitive sense, who I am, what I was picking up on, because I had zero teachers in this arena. And my mom was an ultra sensitive as well. And she was what she called psychic. That was the big word back in the day. Now everybody's saying intuitives. They're the same thing. Really were, energy readers is what boils down to it, but also we get messages through our intuitive senses. But that's one of the things that I learned from this book was that the four clairs. When I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so I am a claircognizant. At the time, that was my most prevalent clair, was a claircognizance, which I've heard that many of us that is our first and most prevalent clair, because it's a clear knowing, and that knowing is in the heart center. And this is even something that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about all the time, who studies heart brain coherence and all of his work that he does. I won't get into all that, but he talks about this too. He talks about this clear knowing that we have in our heart. Like we quite literally can feel it in our heart. And interestingly enough, there's 40,000 neurons, which are brain cells in our heart. All right. So there is this connection that goes on here. So when we feel things in our heart first, that's called I'm sorry. Yeah. No, it's in clear inner knowing. So it's called claircognizance. So that was the first one that showed up for me, was my claircognizant. And now as I went through life, all kind, because I was really open and to things, then other clairs started to show up as well. So the very first book that I ever read, that probably I ever bought, besides maybe a school book, was Are You Really Too Sensitive by Marcy Calhoun. And I believe it is still out there in print. You can tell how old this cover is. Sometimes they change covers. So that's this one. All right. Next one. This book was given to me. Okay. And I love this. This was given to me from a fellow hairdresser, to my dear friend Chrissy. I really got a lot out of this book and thought you might enjoy it too. Thank you for your unconditional support. Love you, buddy. This was on 12/25/99. Okay. Living with Joy by Sanaya Roman. Now, many of these books I don't really remember. And because, gosh, this one, here you go. Chapter 7, Refining the Ego, Recognizing Who You Are. Right. This book, let me see. Oh, let me read just something highlighted. Whatever you think of, so you are. So it was things like this that I was reading. Oh, here's a big one. If you wish to be free, it is important not to manipulate other people either, but to give them their freedom. At first, you may feel as if you have lost a measure of control if you turn over to other people the right to do as they please with their lives. But you will create between you a whole new level of honesty and love that could not occur without your courage and willingness to release control. You can learn to detach from the reactions of others and from your own emotions if they take you out of a calm, clear center. Okay. So you can release the past by loving it. I mean, this book, look at this. Orange and yellow highlighting. Opening to new things mean trusting and having faith in yourself and others. It means believing that the future holds joy and promise. It means believing in your growth and direction. The heart is the center of faith, trust, and belief. Opening to the new means opening your heart. This was an amazing book. And this was really, aside from Are You Too Sensitive, this was really my kind of toe dipping into the spiritual and self-help world, because I kind of use those words interchangeably, spiritual and self-help, because my whole healing path, shockingly enough, was spiritual. It was spiritual. It was by me reading spiritual type literature that I actually applied to myself. I didn't just read it and throw the book out the window. Or it blows my mind when I'm at a bookstore, and this is just my opinion, when I'm at a book or like a used bookstore and I see these most amazing books, I'm like, how did this person give this away? This book changed my life. Hold on, I got a thing back there. How did this person give this book away? Like, it blows my mind because I can't let go of mine. And that went on to Sanaya Roman. Living with Joy went on to the next book called Spiritual Growth, Being Your Higher Self by Sanaya Roman. You can tell all these books are spiritual because that's really all that I read, but it was enough. Look at this green highlighter I got going on in here, trying to take the glare off. Every situation is an opportunity to grow. Everything that happens is giving you the opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more loving. Some situations offer you the opportunity to release an attachment or let go of an emotion that no longer serves you. Allowing your higher good means knowing deep inside that you are safe and loved and that your higher self is always working for you. So these are the type of things. Say to yourself, I now allow more good things into my life. Everything happens for your higher good. The universe works in perfect ways. I mean, these are books that were way back in the day. Like when was this bad boy published? Let me see if I can find it. Dead air. When you're on radio, you're not supposed to have any dead air. So I'm not talking. All right. I don't know. I can't find the date. Oh, this was from that girlfriend too. She said to my best friend in the whole world, I hope 2001 brings you all wonderful things to you. Okay. So yeah. And I don't know when this was. So I know it was somewhere probably before 2000 when she gave it to me. It's going to show 1987. Okay. So it was 3 years after it was published. So this again, another amazing book. These spiritual books to me, Sanaya Roman, where are you, Sanaya? Where are you? Because she is amazing. In fact, once I was at a seminar recently, and there was a guy, a young man, like 20s or something, reading one of these books, and I looked, I'm like, she's still, her books are still alive out there. They're still doing their thing, and they're old. They've been around for a while. Which leads me to the next book by guess who? Sanaya Roman. Personal Power Through Awareness. I remember this being a big one for me. Oh, yeah. There's just highlighting. Let me get the glare off the page. Highlighting all over this bad boy, just one thing after the next. And I just kept highlighting. You cannot sense energy clearly. It, you cannot be powerful in direct energy unless your first commitment is to yourself. Who says that all the time? It's all about us, you guys. It's all about us. We think it's all about them. We think it's all of our power, all this stuff is happening in the outside world, and we're victims. We're not. We got to pull that energy in. We got to work on this vessel right here. We got to work on this mind right here and this heart right here. And that's when stuff starts shifting for us. It is the most amazing transformation you will ever make. It all happens within, and we can do this. Oh, Julia, just want to say hi quick and thank you for making this fit. I'm so looking forward to the replay. You betcha, sister. Julia is the one that requested this. So I know some people can't stay. In fact, every time I get on a live stream on a Friday, it's kind of crickets out there. I guess everybody's gearing up for the weekend and get ready to have a good time. Hold on. Not me. I'm on a live stream talking about my favorite books because this is what I felt inspired to do. Okay, I opened it to this page. One of the biggest blind spots in sensing energy is being too aware of yourself, existing too much on the center stage of your own life. You are blocked from sensing other people's realities when you are more concerned with what others think about you than what you could do to heal and assist them, and in parentheses, which of course heals and assists you. It's interesting on this journey. There's some point in my journey that someone in my life, because I was doing a lot of freebie coaching, and I mean, I want to help people. That's all I can tell you. It's been inside me my entire life. I think it's inside of all of us, to be honest with you. But I had like a massive compelling surge to help heal other people, like as literally as long as I can remember. And I know definitely started manifesting truly in high school. And I remember if someone, reached out for help to me, I'd jump on the phone with them. I'd talk to them as long as needed until I felt a shift in their energy. And it always happened 100% of the time. And I remember someone in my life at one point when I became a coach, they said, you need to be charging all those people. And I said, I can't. This is what I love to do. And these are people that can't necessarily pay, or they're too young, or, whatever situation was going on. But I would spend that time with them because I organically love to help people heal. Like it feels like I even venture to say that so many of us feel this way when you sit with somebody, maybe not everybody. I don't know. That's a shot in the dark. But I guess what I'm saying is if you are, thanks, Julia. That's very sweet. I appreciate that. I'm going to receive that. I'm gonna stick it in my heart. So, but I would do that. And what did it just say right there? It just said, when you are willing to help heal others, you are actually in turn healing yourself. So I knew that concept, not because somebody taught it to me, but because it feels good. It's a light vibration. It's a light energy. It's a feeling of love. And that feeling of capital L love is the highest energy we can possibly ever be in. Because I didn't coach people or talk to people because I'm trying to pat myself on the back or egoically, prove something, because it's just not the way I'm wired. But it's a feeling of love, and it was a feeling that felt good to me, and that's why I did it. And good for making this on Friday. Girl, yeah, it shows your dedication. Here's what's funny. It is dedication, but it's also, I don't do anything in my business that I don't feel inspired to do. And I know that sounds weird. And all day long, Julia, you asked me this question, I don't even know, this week, I think. And I said, yeah, I'll do a live on that. So I just let that stuff swirl around in my energy until it goes, boop, it's time. And I did a couple things today. I had a meditation right here on the floor, right there, with my binaural beats on my headset. And I came out of that and I literally said, what feels next? What feels good next? And it was get on this live. So I follow my inspiration and I do it. There's nothing that I do. If you guys are in my newsletter, I talk about this in an upcoming newsletter. In fact, if you're not in my newsletter yet, I highly recommend you pop into my newsletter. Just go over to kristenbrown.org and you can sign up either by getting the self-love meditations or there's sign-up sheets like on various pages on there. But yeah, sign up for my newsletter. I'd actually get the self-love meditations. I can give you that link in the thing below because there's 3 self-love meditations that are absolutely powerful. They're short. They're 7.5 minutes each ish. And every single person that has done one has texted me immediately and went, oh my God, like this is what came up for me in these meditations. So you can find those. I'll type them in right here so that y'all can find those and people who are listening to this on the replay can. www.kristenbrown.org/self-love meditations. If you have my book already, okay, which we're going to talk about. Let me get to the page because there is something very special in here that actually my publisher asked me to do at the very last minute. She said, would you like to do this? I said, why, yes, I would. And that is a reader's bonus. Whoops. That's a reader's bonus that I give right here. And if you hover your phone over this QR code and click on the link that comes up, that'll take you directly to the self-love meditations. And there's a landing page there so you can read about those meditations. So you can sign up to my newsletter there, or you can also go here / www.kristenbrown.org/ that's it, kristenbrown.org. That will be scroll down slightly on home page and get the self-love self-love quiz. If you guys haven't taken my self-love quiz, do it. It's like, it is. I'm the self-love junkie. I'm the self-love mastery coach. And it was interesting because when I Googled it before I constructed my quiz, I'm like, other people doing this? I'm oblivious half the time. I'm not out there in the world comparing myself to other people. I'm kind of on my own little boat, paddling through life, doing my little things. And I saw that there was a bunch of other ones. And I took one and I couldn't believe it. This quiz, she must have an automatic system or an automatic answer or something. It was like, oh, you're really below the self-love. And I was like, that cannot even possibly be true because I know all the ins and outs of this. And I thought, maybe there's some quizzes because then they want you to go to the next step, which is, oh, but since you're low on the self-love, go to this next step. And there was a couple other ones out there too. And it made me wonder. I said, I wonder how much people really know what they're talking about when they're writing these self-love quizzes, because I'm not really sure. So my point being that this is a really rock solid self-love quiz. It is not difficult. It would probably take you 5 to 7 minutes ish. And you just answer the questions, you add up your points, and then I put you into 3 categories at the end. It's that simple. But it was very interesting because I took it myself and actually answered from, you know, not from knowing the outcome of it, but just from where am I really at? And of course, I was in the upper area, but I didn't get all the points. Fascinating, huh? I did not get all the points. I was still in that thing because there are some things that I still work on. There are some things that I still work on. That's why I named my book Recovering, because I'm not just done. I'm not done in life here. And I had many people take it who I'm close to, and I was very curious to see how they would show up because I knew in my head where they fell in those things just because that's part of my knowing. And they came back to me and said, I was in this category. I said, how do you feel about that category? And they're like, it's exactly what I believe I should be in. And so it's just a really good quiz, you guys. And it's a great thing to have to just kind of assess where you're at. And nothing I ever do ever, 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 ever is ever about shaming or making you feel bad about where you're at, because we're all on a journey and that's just ridiculous. If you ask me, like no one should ever be ashamed of where they're at because we're all just products of our environment and our experiences and the things that have happened to us. Um, love how you process and follow your intuition. It's inspiring to me to honor my own flow. Yes, girl. I know you got it, Julia. So you slow down. That's what we got to do. Slow down. Because being a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a content creator, many times I'm like, I gotta be creating. I gotta be doing something. And I've taken all the stress and pressure off of me for that, period. My goal is one really quality video a week. And if another one or a live or something comes from that, because I got all kinds of other things that I do as well. But if anything else comes after that, it's a bonus because that's what I am committing to. But here's the also thing. There's 7 days in a week. 7 days in a week. I don't work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. I work when I feel like it. So if it's in the morning, I do, okay, I'm going to do this. Then I got this client or this thing. And then the next day, there was one day last week, I just feel like doing anything. And I was like, I just don't feel anything. And I didn't. But then, man, come Sunday, I was hell on fire. And I was like, woo, busting it out. So it really is about just going through the flow of life and following what feels good to you, especially if you're in some type of a content creating arena. Take the pressure off yourself. Okay. You will get to where you're going. You're going to get to where you're going, but you're not going to do it from panting. That's what I call it. I got to get there. I call it when I'm panting. Okay. It's like, you've been running. I got to get there. I can't breathe. Oh my God. You get the side stitch and you're still trying to create your video. No, none of that's going to work. You got to do it from inspiration because that's God leading you. And that's believe it or not, the shortest path. The shortest path is to inspiration. I've fought it. I've done the other thing way too long and beat myself up and got sick and overwhelmed myself, yada, yada. All right. So the next thing is my next book is not the original of the book that I bought. Okay. I couldn't find it. I don't know if I loaned it to somebody. I don't know what happened. I actually went to a half price bookstore and got it because I didn't like that I didn't have this book. And this book is, you guys probably know it, Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. Such an amazing book. Neale Donald Walsch is a man who was, I don't remember the exact story, but I think he was in some type of accident. Long story short, he was homeless. He was living on the streets. He got mad enough. There's a movie. I forgot the name of the movie, but if you look up Neale Donald Walsch's movie, I believe it is his story because I remember watching it, but that was a while back. Anyway, he was up in the middle of the night, madder than heck, angry at the world, and he started screaming out to God for help and asking questions. And he started channeling God. And he was writing down these answers. So he came up with at some point along the line, the message said, your book is going to be published. And he was like, who's going to want to publish this book? And he actually called a publisher. What's funny is I think I went to a book publishing thing where he told the story. I think he did. Yes. Anyway, Neale Donald Walsch went to a publisher and the publisher said no. Like many publishers were saying no. And this particular publisher said no as well. And he was saying that. He was like, yeah, I actually turned down Conversations with God. But the point is that he finally, I'm messing up this story like I always do because I don't hold on to these type of details. But long story short, at some point I remember he saying something like he wrote a letter to the publisher, the next publisher, and he said, I dare you to read this book, something like that. He dared the publisher. And if you know anything about Neale Donald Walsch, he's sassy that way. So anyway, this is the book, Neale Donald Walsch's book. And I love this. And I actually have the other volumes too over here, but my pile was getting too big. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I read those other volumes yet. But this is a great book. It's a great foundational book for you to understand God, especially if you have suffered through any type of religious abuse or, a fear-based religion where even the word God makes you want to throw up because you don't like the feel of it because the energy or the way it was described to you was very negative or dark or low vibe or heavy. And so even the God word just kind of freaks you out. This is going to clear up that stuff. Even though it's the God word, it's going to clear up some stuff for you because God actually has a sense of humor too. And it was mind blowing, this book. Okay. Conversation with God. My very next book happened along. Do 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 do. You've probably heard of it. A New Earth with Eckhart Tolle. Interesting thing is that my tsunami ex and I both got a copy of this book, and somewhere along the line, we started some type of book study. I don't remember how the whole thing went down, but we started a book study, and we'd go up to our local Barnes and Noble with a couple of other people, and we were reading it, and we were talking about it. And this is very interesting because it was really, even though my other books talked about the ego, I was getting something else from those books. And that's why I believe I said in the beginning of this broadcast that we're all at different places. So these are my particular love interest books, but they may not be yours. Although they have gone on to do great and wonderful things in the world, lots of them. And I happened upon them organically. And here we are 20 years later or something like that. And they're still out there. They're still New York Times bestsellers or have been or what have you. So there is some hardcore spiritual truth and amazing truth in this. But A New Earth was mind blowing to me. And we talked about books that we haven't finished. I don't think I ever finished this one, to be honest with you, but I got what I needed to get from it. And I love this book. And I actually have 2 copies because, believe it or not, I still have my Tsunami X's copy. It's fascinating, isn't it? So yeah, it's over there, but mine is, you can see it's yellowed. The other book is not yellowed. But anyway, this is an amazing book, and okay, here we go. I'll just read one passage out of this. Any negative emotion that is not fully faced and seen for what it is in the moment arise in the moment it arises does not completely dissolve. It leaves behind a remnant of pain. This is why I often say, and I talk about in my book, The Recovery People Pleaser, that is so important that we feel our emotions through to fruition, because when we don't, then there's a remnant that's going to hang around in there. So this book was really my introduction into the ego. It was my introduction into the pain body, which is the trauma stored in us. It's our trigger places. And what you will notice when you read these type of books, if you haven't already, and I don't assume that I know more than you, I'm just sharing my information here. But what I've noticed through all of these books, are you ready for this? Drum roll, please. They're all saying the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. I also noticed that about different religions, because I have a book, books over here about the Tao Te Ching. I have the books over here about Buddhism. I have the Tao. Wait, the Tao Te Ching. No, the I Ching. I mean, all the things over here. I'm trying to see if I can see any. Yeah, I can't because they're kind of far. But anyway, they're all saying the same thing. I noticed that the messages were repeating, and that's when I came to understand what universal truth is. Universal or capital T truth is truth that is unchanging. It is part of who we are as spirits on this earth plane. And no matter what religion was formed to teach these teachings, and what words are used to teach these teachings, it's the energy and essence of these words that matters. Okay? This is why I have heard it been said, and I love this, that God, source, energy is the center. And religions are like spokes on a wheel going to the same energy. Okay, so we're learning it, but people are coming to it from different angles. And this is why I never would put on what I believe onto someone else. In fact, in my client intake forum, I ask people, do you believe in some type of higher power? Because that tends to be a neutral word for people. And if so, what do you call your higher power? Because everybody calls things different. So The New Earth, this was amazing. It's also The Power of Now. He's got The Power of Now, which I listened to on audiobook, and that was great. And I just adore Eckhart Tolle. What I did with a lot of my books, though, y'all, is once YouTube started coming out and podcasts started coming out, I sought these teachers out via audio or video form, and I would listen to and watch them. It's like much of what I've learned from Neil Donald Walsh came through going to his talks, or searching him on YouTube and listening to what he has to say. I have an interesting story about Neil Donald Walsh because I don't know, back 2, 3 months ago, I was going through, I call it a mini dark night of the soul because it wasn't like a complete annihilation, crash and burn, hitting bottom type thing, but it was definitely a spiritual tantrum I was having. And I couldn't sleep and I got up in the middle of the night. I've never done this. I left the house like 3 a.m., got in my car and I drove. I've never done, my husband never even woke up, which is hysterical. I could have been gone. And I drove around. And while I'm driving around, I'm asking God, I'm like, help me. I'm in this weird stuck space to, help me, help me. And the message came in, Google Neil Donald Walsh. So I searched or Google, I YouTubed him. And I went and picked a talk and put it on. And he had a message for me. And it was probably within the first 60 seconds of me listening to it. And I was like, that was really good. And so I did it again. I searched, randomly picked one, put a talk on, and guess what happened? He said the same thing, almost verbatim. And then I did it again, a third talk, and guess what happened? He said the same thing, almost verbatim again in a third talk. All right. When we are supposed to get a message, those messages, when we're open to receiving those messages are going to come. How we heal is not just by reading a book and throwing it on the shelf. How we heal is seeing what resonates with us as capital T truth, universal wisdom, letting it come in and saying, that feels good, and allowing that to change us. All right. Little chappy stick here, dry in Arizona. Now, this one. I bought this book. Well, my girlfriend had recommended it to me, a different girlfriend, then gave me Sinai Roman book, then the one who gave me the Sinai and Roman books. And she recommended it to me and she talked about it a lot. During my tsunami ex was gone. He was out of town. And I'm not sure if he had left the family or not. But there was this massive book sale that goes on here at Veteran Memorial Coliseum here in the middle of Phoenix. And one of my hair clients at the time, she volunteered for that. And she was telling me the days to come, tell me when was half price day, all these things. So I went in there and it was half price day. And this book that I'm about to show you was listed for $1. And it was half price day. So I bought this book for 50 cents. And I have actually even emailed the author and said 50 cents changed my life. That's how imperative this book was to me. Are you guys ready? A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. I love this book so much. You can see how tattered it is. Okay. It's very tattered. I have read this book so many times. I cannot even tell you. The pages are yellowed. The highlighting is very hard to read because it's fading. But this book changed my life. And I will tell you why. Because it is the reflections on the principles of A Course in Miracles. So when you all hear me referring to A Course in Miracles, I'm referring to the teachings of A Course in Miracles. Have I actually read A Course in Miracles top to bottom? Where is it? Have you guys seen it? Stand by. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming back. Okay. This fatty is A Course in Miracles. The writing is tiny. All right. And it literally reads, it's like got to be 5 pounds, and it reads like a Bible. And it is, but this is all 3 volumes of this. This is the text, the workbook for students, the manual for teachers, the clarification of terms, and supplements. So I have gone through and read pieces and parts of it. But for me, it was a little difficult for me to understand. So what I love about Marianne Williamson is she is the most amazing Course in Miracles teacher that I have ever run across. And I've tried to read other people's books on A Course in Miracles. I have tried to watch other talks on A Course in Miracles, but no one does it like Marianne. And this book literally, so 50 cents changed my life. This literally became my Bible, so to speak. Not to discount the beautiful Bible. I'm just saying, so when I was in the throes of my hell, of my tsunami hell, I was reading this thing like crazy. So when people are like, how did you heal, Kristen? What did you do? I was reading stuff like this. The ego's patterns have to be rooted out, detoxed from our system before the pure love within us can have a chance to come forth. Okay. I was the victim of something pretty crappy. I was in the worst place of my life, and this was saying, I have to deal with my ego. I have to do this before pure love within me can have a chance to come forth. So I started to deal with the ego. You see what I'm saying? I did the work. The ego is simply where a glitch occurred, where the wires got crossed, where love became blocked. This book is the book, it's that famous quote that we often hear out in the world about it's not our darkness that we fear, but our shiny, glorious light. I cannot quote it for you guys right now. That book came from Return, or that quote came from Return to Love. A lot of times you're going to see that out in the world where people think it came from Nelson Mandela. It did not. Although Marianne Williamson quotes Nelson Mandela a lot, probably the wires got crossed somewhere along the line. But this book is basically how she interprets A Course in Miracles. And when I started to apply the concepts of A Course in Miracles to my life, that is when my life really, truly started to change. That is where peace became my primary purpose. That is when I started to look at myself through a lens, or, look back at my life and go, what the heck is changing here? And what you need to know about A Course in Miracles, because a lot of weird things people are saying about it out in the world, it is processed by the foundation of inner peace. This is not a cult. There is no groups out there. If there's study groups on it, that's one thing. But I heard someone attacking this on Marianne Williamson's platform one time saying it's this big cultist thing. There's nothing cultish about this. If you think love, talking about love and replacing fear with love is cultish, well, okay, then it's a cult that I'd want to be in, I guess. No, but there's nothing negative, weird, bad, horrific about A Course in Miracles. It is quite literally a book that changed my life through Marianne Williamson. All right, going to move on to the next one. This was also referred to me. Wait, which one came first? I think it was this one. All right, this is another one. This book changed my life too in the most massive way. And this was from the gal who referred Return to Love to me. She also referred dun, 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 Byron Katie, Loving What Is. Wow. Wow. If you haven't heard of Byron Katie yet, she is freaking magnificent. It also says with Stephen Mitchell, who is her husband, who is, I think he might be a Course in Miracles teacher. Don't quote me on that. This book is absolutely fascinating. This is how to question your thoughts, to question your limiting thoughts. Okay. So many of us have thoughts that are beating ourselves up, that are causing us to suffer in the world. And this is how I learned to turn those thoughts around. You might have heard the story about in 2011 when I had been walking around for probably a solid year with anxiety and depression and my heart pounding and my lips, curling up on its own one day while I was driving down. I'm just driving down the road. All of a sudden my lip goes like this because the nerves in my body were going crazy. And I said, oh my God, I've got to stop this. Well, I started questioning my thoughts. I started doing Byron Katie's 4-question, it's called The Work, 4 questions and turnaround statement. And I asked myself those 4 questions. I did the turnaround statements, and I kid you not, within 48 hours, my anxiety was gone, completely gone. And I don't mean kinda, I mean gone, like completely. It was like someone had turned a light switch. And within 2 weeks, those plaguing thoughts that I was turning around because I was very repetitious with them, they stopped coming. I had rewired my brain to think in a way that was more true, which is the most fascinating part, more true, and that was actually going to serve me. And I stopped my suffering. Loving What Is by Byron Katie will change your life. Once again, another book that these books don't help us unless we do the work. People like me, teachers in the world that come out and share our experiences and share our tools and techniques with people, it's great. And they do work. These are work. These do work. Like this book is a gazillion copies sold right now, right? And she's has massive seminars and a huge, website and all these things now. And guess what? She didn't set out to be this type of teacher. She just had a massive awakening one day and started to realize that her thoughts were what was causing her suffering, because she was in a deep, dark depression. I was going to say eating disorder, but I don't remember if she had that. She had something. And anyway, at some point she was staying at some place, some sort of, I think, facility. Again, don't quote me. And she didn't even think she was worthy enough for a bed. So she was sleeping on the floor, because she didn't even think she was, that's how horrible she felt inside. And it had something to do with a roach crawling over her foot and some wake up call. And just her life changed. And then people told her at some point, you should write this, you should write a book. And she wrote a book, and now she's huge in the world because it works. It works when we apply it. We just have to be willing to apply it. The next book was given to me or recommended to me by the same gal who recommended to me A Return to Love and Loving What Is. And that is Take Me to Truth. Okay. By Nuke Sanchez and Tomas Vieira. Okay. Absolutely fabulous book. This is a combination book of, it's a lot of Course in Miracles. I even think they quote Byron Katie in here. It's about getting away from guilt. It's about healing self-esteem. It's about undoing the ego. It's about mistaken identities. There's so many things. Let me just randomly read you what this says. Real love can only be increased by extending it. We do this through forgiveness, overlooking ego error in oneself and partner, gratitude, patience, unconditional giving, listening, communicating honestly, and with no conditions, meaning absolutely no hidden agendas to receive anything in return. The miracle of conscious love is known through its unconditional extension, and initially it may require extreme patience and tolerance in the early part of a relationship transition. This is the stuff that this book. Now, I will say this book came along my journey, and it was more of kind of a reminder book of what I had already learned. But it is a great book. I highly recommend it because it is a combination of a lot of the teachings that all these other books teach together. So it's kind of a combo book. Really love this one. And last but definitely not least, this is a sweet story. One of my friends gave me this book, and she said it's very old and tattered, but it was one of her favorite books, and she knew what I did for a living. And so she gave me her copy of this book, and she said it's really tattered and old, but it's really helped me. And this book is called Love and Awakening: Discovering the Sacred Path of Intimate Relationships by John Wellwood. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I did not finish this one. But again, it was, oh, hello, $5 bill. You never know what you're going to find. But again, this book was a lot of repeating, many of the other things that I had learned, which you will find as you start to heal on your healing journey, is that it's going to be this repeat. Which brings me to my book, which is The Recovering People Pleaser, a spiritual guide to reclaim your true worth and attract the love you deserve. What this book is, honestly, it is the combination of what I learned. Okay. This is the combo pack. It's all into one neat and tidy little 207-page book or whatever it is. One of my readers actually got on a live stream to talk about this book, and her words were, "It is everything you need to heal, wrapped up in really easy terminology." So we don't have to filter through these long books that are hard to understand with lots of what's the word I'm looking for? Different vocabulary, because like I said, many books are saying the same things. They're just saying it in different ways. So we think that we might be learning a different concept when it's the same concept you learned over in that book. They're just using a different way. Like consciousness. Some people might say consciousness, where some people might call it awakening. There's all different kinds of ways. Someone say your inner knowing. Somebody else calls it claircognizance. Someone just calls it your intuition. There's a lot of different ways that we can say things. And one thing that I will tell you is that when I started becoming a teacher in the world, someone who spoke about this stuff on my Facebook page, I started out that page taking quotes from other people, posting them, and then I would put a little squiggle and I would redefine it. I would redefine that quote to put it in like really easy, simple terms for people to understand. That's literally how I started my Facebook page my business Facebook page many years ago. And I will tell you that time after time after time, people said, "Thank you so much." And the one thing that I heard again when I finished this book and people started reading it was they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so easy to understand." And I actually say that on the back. Uh, Let me see how I said it. A prolific ability to transform complex material into a teaching style that is easy to understand, absorb, and apply. Because it's just in normal terms. It's normal terms that we hear a lot in the world because a lot of times, like I was saying, there's so many vocabulary words that people can use to describe things. And I will tell you, probably each and every person that read this book, every single one of them said to me, "Thank you for the way you wrote it. It is so easy to understand. I love your stories. I love the quotes that you use in this book. It's funny, it's your personality." So it is quite literally the combo of all these books written together and put into really personal form, and how I used it to heal my life, how I used it to heal my inner world, and how I continue to use these things to this day. I will tell you that there's no concept that I wrote in my book that I don't use to this day. Absolutely. In fact, I'm already thinking about my next book, about what I want that to be on, because I want to go more into the spiritual arena. I want to go more into that type of thing. And I kind of have a title. I almost said it, but I'm not going to say it because I want to help people really and truly get more in touch with their spirituality, with their connection to spirit, with their higher self, with their intuition, and to become really well versed in their own gifts that we all came here with. By the way, we all have these gifts. People think, "Oh, that person's a medium, well, they have a gift." Well, we all have the same gifts, shockingly. And again, that's something that I discovered upon my path, because what y'all need to know is I'm very much an observer, and I watch patterns, and I listen to people, and I see things, and I've always been like that. And I come up with theories, and then some other spiritual teacher will say that exact same thing to me. Like mediumship, I'm like, I think we're all mediums. I think we all have the capacity to do that if we want to do it. Soon enough, a medium, every medium I know has said, you all can be a medium." So I'm like, see. So I believe there are certain spiritual gifts that we each come with. Like, they're already in our backpack when we come here. We're allowed to have these spiritual gifts, but some people cultivate them more, some people don't for whatever reason. Some people have just been living in survival mode for too long, or they have too much fear in their life, or they have, someone in their life that is really harsh energy that's beating them down, that like they're kind of crawling out of quicksand, and that person pulls them back down again. These type of things happen to us on the healing path. And I want to, because I'm all about, as a teacher and a mentor, is to help you get your own power back. I will never tell someone what to do, ever. I mean, if they ask me, maybe I won't say you have to do this. I will probably, "Hey, you." I will say it in a way that that person can, absorb it in themselves. But it's not my job to tell anybody what to do. I cannot tell people what to do, and nobody can tell me what to do. However, we can have conversations about things, and if something comes through for me intuitively, I will speak that thing. And if that resonates with the person, then that's awesome. If it doesn't resonate with the person, that's cool as well, because your life is your life. But that's why I want my next book to be about, is I want it to be about you really getting well versed with yourself, because so many people have these amazing gifts, but they're not tapping into those gifts in the capacity that they could, so they can truly go through their life. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a manifesting book, a spiritual book, an intuition book, maybe a conglomeration of the three, but that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm letting it take root inside of me. It's not there yet. The outline is not there yet. Nothing's happening, but I'm feeling really like this kind of call to it. And I'm trying to be sure that I'm not being called to write a second book, because I just had so much fun publishing this book. No, I don't want to be like a book writing addict or anything. So I'm really sitting with this and allowing some time to pass between the publishing of that book and this next book. I did get a new laptop though, because I sit at this desk a lot during the day and I want to be able to be in different places of my house and actually to leave the house when I start writing my next book, because I just need changes of scenery. So that's it, you guys. I'll go through real quick one last time what all my favorite books are in the order that I bought them and read them. So the first one is Are You Really Too Sensitive by Marcy Calhoun. That was in my very, very early 20s, and a very much needed book. Please become a book writing addict. Daryl. That's my friend Daryl, you guys. And he's one of my biggest fans. So yeah. Maybe I probably, that's what my husband's like. He's like, you're just gonna be an author, Kristen. That's just what it's boiling down to. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. It's weird. Even though this is my second book, here's my first one, which I love. I don't talk about this guy enough. I don't talk about this guy enough. All right. But this book is freaking awesome. I was reading a Facebook memory the other day, and it said, a 62-year-old woman messaged me telling me how this book changed her life, something or other, yada, yada. And I was like, gosh, I forgot because this was published in 2014. But I had someone on my other Authenticity, Where True Connection Begins. I had someone on my Facebook business page recently say, I'm going through a hard time. I need to reread your book again. That was this one. Okay, so don't forget about From Doormat to Sweet Empowerment. This book is awesome. It's a beautiful book. All right, so the next one was Living with Joy. Actually, let me get these three out. Oh, God, I'm making a holy mess here. These were three from Sanaya Roman. Living with Joy, Personal Power Through Awareness, and Spiritual Growth, Being Your Higher Self. These three books came boom, 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 back to back. And I even have a fourth one called Soul Love by Sanaya Roman, which I have not read yet. The next book after that was Conversations with God. Okay, love that one. I also have book 2 and all kinds of other extensions of Conversations with God. This was not my first purchase of this book. As I mentioned, this book, I lost it. I couldn't find it. When I was moving, I was like, where's my Conversations with God? Because I wanted to read it again and I couldn't find it. So I actually went out to the half price bookstore and I bought it for $5.99 because I had to have it. Like, I can't not have this book. So that's that one. The next one that came after that was Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. This was a fantastic read. This was a little bit mind-breaking for me when I first read it because I was learning about a lot of stuff for the very first time when I read these type of things that he was talking about in here. But he's become one of my favorite spiritual mentors. I absolutely love Eckhart Tolle. He's the cutest little man ever. And he giggles. He giggles when he tells, he's like, and he tells these little, he's so cute. So anyway, not only is he amazing spiritual teacher, but another guy who was homeless, or I'm sorry, he almost committed suicide or attempted to or something, and then ended up sitting on a park bench for 2 years, had some sort of awakening and went and lived with monks for 4 years or something like that. So that's Eckhart Tolle. And then my next one after that was my all-time fave, which is A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, my very, very loved and worn book. And it actually has a new cover. This is not even the first cover. There's a first cover, and then this cover, and then now there's one that's just red with no picture on it. And, Reflections of A Course in Miracles. That's it. This is my Course in Miracles teaching. Daryl, if you're still in here, I don't know if you've ever seen A Course in Miracles, Daryl, so I'm going to show you. Okay. This is this boy. This thing, like if a robber breaks in my house, I could Course in Miracles that guy because I'd knock him right out. This is a big book. And the writing is small and it feels the pages feel like a Bible. This book has some girth. And I bought it to read it and to study it, and I just can't do it. I was going through they have lessons every day. Lesson 221. I am not my body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. Lesson 212. I'm not my body. Wait, no. Let me read a different one. Oh no, these are all the same. This is interesting. See, this is how it goes in this book. Lesson 182, I will be still an instant and go home. I mean, you're talking mind bending, breaking learning here. Yes, I've seen it, but not read it. It's a weapon of love and spirit. It is. That's it. If a robber breaks in my home, I'm going to go, and they're going to be like, too much love, too much spirit. They'll probably break down crying on my shoulder, and end up having some tea. So that would be okay too. So Return to Love, yay. One of my all-time favorites. Now I got to find the place to put these back on my bookshelf. The next one was Loving What Is by Byron Katie, another book that absolutely transformed my life. Once again, I'm saying for the fifth time, it's because I actually did the work though. When something resonated with me, I didn't just sit on it and go, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's cute. Oh, what a sweet concept. No, I marinated on that ish. I sat in it. I drove around thinking about it. I journaled about things. I marinated on them. I meditated on them. And I did the work because I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew what I was doing was not working. So I had shifted trajectory and I was taking in information. And I don't know, something inside me was like, really study this. And like I said earlier in the beginning, that when we are just programmed thinkers. We're just programmed. We do the same things over and over again. We're on autopilot all the time. But the minute that we bring in new information and we allow that to be our primary thought, what'll happen is the other thoughts are going to fall away. And then that now becomes our autopilot. So when something comes in, is no longer processed through this, it's now processed through that. This knowledge comes up, and that's your new processing system, which is going to be improved. It's like getting an upgrade on your computer, as Daryl knows. You got to do, what are they called? Updates, right? Daryl, we got to update. We got to update the computer, which I don't do very often, and my computer guy gets mad at me. And then the next one is Take Me to Truth, Undoing the Ego. This is by Tomas Vieira and Nuke Sanchez. And I believe they were a married couple that got divorced, that stayed together, something like that, wrote a book together. And I think Tomas has passed along now. But this is another great book, Undoing the Ego. Let me tell you something. That's what we're doing. That's the whole thing here, is to break free from that egoic, fearful control part of our psyche so that we can access this inspirational, loving, high vibe, infinite intelligence space of our psyche, because they're both there, right? But this one's screaming at us, relentlessly beating us up, attacking us, telling us, what pieces of crap we are and that we're not enough and we suck and yada, yada. And we're never going to amount to anything, or no one cares what we have to say, or we're not smart enough, pretty enough, all the things. And then we got this other side of us that's saying you are absolutely divinely perfectly made and you can have anything you want. Anything you want. So really the job is to undo this ego and to start spending more time over here in our higher self, our higher essence. And if it was that easy, we'd all be running around, with our 4 houses on each different continents and all our favorite cars and all the things, right? But it's not, because it's a process. It's a process. And I recently watched a video. It was so amazing. And the person was saying that thing too, which is what I say all the time, but I love when other people say the same type of messages. They were saying that this process that you are in, this journey that you are in towards your manifestation, what you are doing is you are removing the limiting beliefs. The thing is right there. Whatever it is you want, love, health, prosperity, money, 5 houses, whatever it is, it's right there. It's right there. You ask universe and it is given. Ask, it is given, which is another book over on my shelf. Ask and it is given. Here it is. You can have this. Yet we form this barrier to getting it. I usually call it the lead umbrella. So I imagine like here, like if you think everything is up here in escrow waiting for us. So you have a thought, you ask for it. By the way, your dream has come from God. Your dream has come from the highest energy and essence of the quantum field. All right. Infinite possibilities up there. So you ask, yeah, you can have that. It's not even a question of whether you can have something. It's whether you can remove the blocks, you can remove the lead umbrella from those things dropping in. So I feel like we dissolve little portions of our lead umbrella by knocking off one disempowered belief at a time. We just keep This is why, and Daryl has testimony of this because he's one of my dear friends, that when I have a block, and I remember one particularly Daryl and I worked on, I'm like, I don't know what it is, Daryl. I don't know what it is. And I was working through this block, and man, we nailed this block. I don't know how it came up, but I was like, that's it. That's it. It was this subconscious thought that I had going on that was keeping me stuck. And I just felt stuck. Like I felt like I was, being held back, like my arms are being held back by someone and I couldn't move forward. I was trying to move forward, but I couldn't move forward. It's because this thing was keeping me stuck. And then when we got through it and got the conversation, I figured out what it was. I was like, that's it. But as soon as I uncovered that block, immediately that I uncovered, Daryl said, have an unblock party. Have an unblock party. Oh my God. That's hysterical. I don't think he's even in here. Okay, no, he might be back. My number counter is off today, so I'm not sure who's in here or who's not in here. But that's funny. An unblock party. God, I love that. I'm gonna be laughing about that when I'm trying to fall asleep tonight. Anyway, but yeah, once you discover those blocks, you're just removing one block at a time. You're just removing them from your life. You're like, yep, that's not serving me. Nope, that's not serving me. And you're replacing it with something that does. So if you think about my journey, which I tell the story a lot, but someone might be hearing it for the first time. When I decided I wanted to do this, when I decided I wanted to teach people, I didn't want people to suffer anymore. And I had figured out how to cut the learning curve, how to get through this, how to replace, to break out of these horrible patterns that that we were in, that I wanted to teach it. But guess what? I had to cultivate language. I had a massive fear of public speaking. I needed to make a website. I was a hairdresser. I didn't even work on it. I didn't even know how to work Microsoft Word. I could pay my bills online or send an email, but I didn't know anything, nothing. I made myself a freaking website by myself. All these things that I did. I started blogging. I was scared to death to blog and put my voice out there. And I remember one silly little blog that probably no one's even going to see because I didn't even know SEO and all this stuff. And I remember hitting posts and just, you know, breaking out in a cold sweat. I don't break out in cold sweats, but you get what I'm saying? Like, white knuckling, like what was going to happen because I had to cultivate my voice and these type of things. So over time, what has happened is it was like one block at a time was being removed from my life. And which is fascinating is as these blocks were being removed, people were coming in. They were matching me at whatever stage of the journey that I was at. So I was being fed, so to speak, as this was happening. So it was like enough to keep me going, to keep me moving on my path to with inspiration and excitement and motivation. Yet there were these things that I had to undo. And one time Daryl and I did that. We got on a phone call and we worked through a block. And he said to me recently, he said, I don't know if you're still in here, Daryl, but he said, that never came back for you, did it? And I said, nope, because I know how to do this now. I know what my brain's doing. If there's something back here in my unconscious, subconscious that's running my party, it's running my show, and I don't like the way things are looking, then I just got to bring that bad boy forward and I can heal it. And I can heal it with what I said with Byron Katie's book. Yes, he's still here. Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. That's what taught me that. If that disempowered suffering belief is holding me back, likely it's a lie, which it always is. And I question that belief and I replace it with something else that's going to serve me. And poof, that thing is gone. But I have also trained my brain to think in those terms. So back to my book is the last thing that I'm going to say. I'm going to dip out. The Recovering People Pleaser. This book is a conglomeration of all those books together. It is everything that I taught myself, the tools, the tricks that I did. I talk about why these things shift us, how they shift us, what we need to do. But I also give the foundational level because I learn on a very foundational level. I need to know the first step, the second step, the third step. That's how I learn. If someone tries to teach me from the fourth step, no. Give me the first step. Like turn the wrench or put the screwdriver on the thing, turn it, pull the thing out, then pull the plate off, whatever it might be. Give me the steps and I will get it, but also tell me why. So the first half of this book is the what and why of people pleasing. I think it's the first 2 chapters is the what and why, what happened, why it's there, how it came into place. And the whole rest of the book is the how to heal it. So the book is split into 2 parts, but they're not 2 even parts. The first is how, the what and why. The second is the how to heal it. So if you apply the steps and practices in this book, you are going to heal your self-worth. You are going to heal your self-doubt, and you are going to get more confident. You're going to start vibrating at a higher frequency, and you are going to experience better, improved relationships in life, and your manifesting power, your manifesting game is going to upgrade considerably. So that is what that's all about. So I just wanted to say thanks for everybody who dipped in. This live stream was requested from somebody who wanted to know the books that I read. The thumbnail shows my bookshelf. I have read majority of those books. I think there's just a few on the bottom that I haven't. So, I really had to narrow this down to 10 books, and so that it would be kind of clearer and more succinct for you guys. So I nailed it down to 10. But I do continue to read. Oh, and right now I'm reading. Oh, this is the one I'm reading right now. I'm almost done with it. I do want to mention this one. See, I'm almost done with it. I'm right at the end of this. And this is You Are a Badass by, thanks, Daryl, by Jen Sincero. This is a great book. And this is what's really interesting about this book is she's basically saying the exact same things I'm saying in my book. Like it is we're covering the exact same criteria. She writes with a lot of jest, a lot of humor. There's way more words in this book than I use in mine. It is brilliant. It's got a lot of copies in print now, and I do highly recommend this. It is a very, very fun. It's an entertaining read as much as it is a teaching read. Okay. So, all right, you guys, that's all I got for you today. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for everyone who's going to listen on the replay. Daryl, thanks for jumping in and saying hi to your bro. I'm his bro. We call each other bro. So I will talk to you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed. Much love. Peace.